Hello, amateurs. Welcome to another episode of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some wonderful rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host, Tim, and I've got another fantastic guest for you today. This man is president of Dalkeith RFC, which is based just outside of Edinburgh. They've recently had a huge anniversary and they've won the National Community Club of the Year. Please welcome Mr. Jamie Simpson. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're very welcome. Welcome to the show. Now then, I want to hear about that award. Tell me about the award. What's it based on? How did you get it?
I think when we won the award, I was in disbelief. I've got to be totally honest. We sat as a committee at the table, and I was so certain that we'd done so well to win the East Regional Award, we couldn't possibly win the National Award. But when I went on stage, I kind of said, "You win it for 1 year, but you put in the work for so many years before it." And I think a lot of clubs know that. You know, any success you see, it takes a lot of work. And our club spent, the best part of 10 to 15 years building to kind of achieve that award. So it was an amazing moment, and I think I was very proud to go up and collect it, but also a little bit humble, given that there's a lot of other people's work has contributed to the successes that kind of meant we won the award.
Fantastic. We are going to get into the details of all of that in a moment. But I want to hear more about the awards night. Where was it? Who was presenting it? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it was at Murrayfield. We were in one of the suites there. Amazing dinner, packed room. Lots of amazing awards. So, everything from, Coach of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, which one of our own club members also won that night. So Stevie Halliday, who's our Director of Youth Rugby, he's been on the committee for probably the best part of 20 years. Former club president. The Director of Youth Rugby, big part of how our growth has happened and why we won the award. So he won that award early in the evening, and we were again thinking, surely we can't win, a second award on the same night. But yeah, lucky enough to be announced as the winners, which was a bit surreal. And my wife actually does our social medias and literally had the phone facing me as they announced who won it. So you can see that on our Instagram the moment I kind of panicked that I have to go on stage. But it was an amazing night. It was brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, what I want to know next is it's called Community Club of the Year. What's written underneath that? What's the descriptor? What does that mean exactly?
I think it relates to everything you do as a club. So it's not just about a club who maybe, won their men's league or won their women's league or have had success in one area. And I think before you win the national award, there's regional awards, there's East, West and things. And all the other clubs who are up for the national award with us had seen success in a lot of different areas. So for us, it's been huge growth in youth rugby, both boys, but most notably in girls rugby. I'm sure we'll chat about that as well. But also our women's team, the year we won it, which was the season of 2023-24, first year we've had a women's team in the best part of 15 years. They'd gone from something in the region of 4 players to 30 odd and had real success, domestically and getting to a national final. So it was all kinds of things, but also relates to just stuff you do in the community. So we work with a lot of community groups, people like Andy's Man's Club, Sporting Memory. We also use our facilities as much as possible when they're not being used for rugby, for other community groups. And we try to pack all that into our award submission. And as I say, I think a lot of the other clubs are the same. The ones that won the other regional awards, they do so much across so many different areas. So it's not just about on the pitch.
Absolutely. Okay, that's amazing. We're going to dig into some details now because I like to, you've obviously done some fantastic work up there and I want other clubs to sort of learn from you as well. So first thing, the off-field stuff, the community stuff. How do you organise the time in your schedule for, club members to get involved in that kind of thing? Because I speak to a lot of rugby clubs and a lot of them just feel like they're under pressure all the time to just get a team out. So what have you done that's sort of enabled that?
I think, and I've heard others on the pod say, it comes down to volunteers and your people. Unless you're a pro rugby club, with lots of employed staff, you require people to give up their time and make things happen, whether they're coaching, minis, coaching seniors, part of the committee. And we've been really lucky. There's been a lot of the core members of our committee have been on that in that group for a long time. They give up thousands of hours a year, to make that happen. And I think it's their hard work, on a Tuesday night, in the summer when no one's down in the club and no one really sees what they're doing, that actually comes off in the long term. But I think it's also, as silly as it sounds, being open to change. I've been a member of the rugby club for a long time, and so have many of the others on the committee. And I think to get success, sometimes you have to change and evolve with the sport and with the community and be open to new ideas. And that's certainly helped us, along the way.
Okay, that's brilliant. Open to change. That's a really good one. Now, these people, the volunteers, these club members that have been around a long time, there's a reason for that, isn't it? There must be something about your club, whether it's the culture, just the sort of spirit within it. Is there something there that you can identify that maybe why everybody's staying together for so long?
Yeah, I mean, we wrote them in and keep hold of them as part of it. But I think, like, we were chatting about this the other day, myself and our club secretary, Julie, and I think there's different people have come from different, like, they've been hooked into the club in different ways. Like, I've played at the club since I was a mini all the way through, being club captain, now club president. Others, we've got quite a few parents or, parents who maybe got involved when their kids were in minis or youth rugby. Their kids are now either in the senior rugby or else and are still part of the club. So I think there's a big aspect of that. There's also a family aspect. So a lot of the guys I played rugby with that have come through, youth and into senior rugby and are involved in the committee and the running the club, their parents played at the club. Some of them, mum and dad, so I think there's an element of that kind of longevity as well. One thing we've tried to do as we've grown though, so we've got, so many more kids, but also therefore parents who might not have been involved in the club, is to try and get them more involved. It is something that I know is a challenge. There's so many different clubs that their kids might go to, so trying to get them to also volunteer can be difficult. But I think we've been quite successful just making it as welcoming as possible. Offering not micro volunteering, but volunteering on smaller scale, whether it's just helping out here and there. And then hopefully they get the bug and get involved. And then next thing you know, they're coaching a team or they're helping out every Saturday or Sunday. And it kind of evolves, I think. And that's kind of how you keep them, I think, as well.
Yeah. So you rope them in and then tighten the noose a little bit as you go.
100%.
Right. Okay. That's brilliant. That's a really good example, like the micro volunteering, micro tasks. Have you got any examples of things that would fall into that category?
Yeah, I think it's even just asking for an extra pair of hands to help out, make the food on a Sunday or come and help us set up for our minis festival. So we, like a lot of clubs, have festivals and stuff at the end of the season. Our minis festival, for P1s to P7 junior school kids, we have like 300 odd kids minimum, usually more than that, down at the club so at the end of the season. That's when we're looking for volunteers to help out, maybe on the barbecue, on the raffle. And then they might be like, well, look, if there's something else I can help with, or I'd love to actually do more, each week if there's something, and then you can hook them in. I do think you could always do with more volunteers. And I think like all rugby clubs, there's always a few who do huge amounts. And it's been one thing, like this is my third year as president, and I think I've not got the final answer to, but one thing I've been quite vocal this season already on is, how do we solve that long term? How do we succession plan? How do we make sure people don't burn out? The same people doing loads of work and others helping here and there. So I think it's about maybe just talking about it as well. Because I think a lot of clubs, they're like, there's loads, but actually, can we all spread the workload as well? So bit of a balance maybe.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point about the burnout. And that is, again, a very common theme across club volunteers. I think that idea that you've got there is just about talking about it, just having it out in the open.
Exactly.
Kind of just almost validates it, right? And it probably makes the people that are doing a lot of the work be seen, feel like they're being seen. In terms of actually spreading that load, though, have you got any ideas yet, or is that still a work in progress?
I think, like with our committee, we've seen evolution, but I think you have general committee roles, for example, and we've done well on getting people who have been involved in one aspect of the club. So, for example, Debbie's just joined our committee. She's played with the women's team, but never had an active volunteer role within the club has now joined our general committee. She's now getting involved in different aspects. Last year we had one of our volunteers, Julie, who came on as general committee, is now assistant secretary and taking on, a specific role. And I think just giving people the opportunity to get involved in certain aspects, like I was saying, you might hook them into other areas, but they can also see where the workload is and where they can help out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about feeling valued? Because I think everybody wants to feel valued, and if you're doing something, especially a volunteer role, just being recognised or seen in some way is quite important. Is there anything you're doing in that regard as well?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge because I think sometimes the work people do every single week, you can get forgotten. And I think what we try to do is celebrate success. And one thing I've taken from my own work, to the committee this year is we brought in a charter, which is about how we'll work together as a committee. A lot of it's just, sharing ideas openly, etc., but also celebrating successes, even the small successes. So even a really successful function on a Saturday night, that's brilliant for the club. That brings in revenue that helps us do what we do. And the club treasurer who runs our bar, her work during the week to set up for that and to organise that helps us pay for the rugby that we do elsewhere. So celebrating that success that might not even be considered by others, and people go, wow, yeah, actually, that function bringing in a few £1,000 helps the club do, X, or, go on a trip or whatever else. I think people don't always connect with that. So one thing we want to do more this year is celebrate the successes, and not just the obvious ones when you win a league or a trophy, the smaller ones that happen around every club, I would say, every week.
Yeah, fabulous. Right then, Jamie, you look far too young to be a club president. So are you still playing yourself? What's your playing story?
No, so that I literally retired from playing at the end of last season, and our pre-season starts tonight, and already had messages off the guys going, sure, you've retired, I'll see you tonight, I'm sure. But yeah, like I turned 39 in a couple of months, and I think after 21 seasons of senior rugby, my body's kind of gone, maybe it's time not to. But I played all the last season. It was good fun. It was good fun.
Fantastic. What position were you, Jamie? What kind of player are you?
Traditionally, I was a winger, but then when you hit your 30s and you've got absolutely no pace left, I have ended up playing in the back row last season, which is maybe a reflection of putting on a bit more weight than perhaps I should have. But no, it's been good fun. And last year, I think I played both wing and seven for the ones, which was good. It's a good group of guys as well. I think the hardest bit about giving up actually is not being there Tuesday, Thursday with the guys and being part of that group. Although I don't think my wife still believes I'll give up.
We'll revisit this maybe in 6 months' time and see where you're at.
Yeah.
Okay, while we're talking about playing things, obviously you've talked about the club and volunteers and all of that a lot so far, but as you mentioned at the start, you've seen really good growth in several areas of the playing side of your club. Anything you've done there, anything you could put a finger on that other people could sort of learn from?
Yeah, I think I would say between 10 and 15 years ago, we realised that we had a really good mini section. So, up to primary 7. And then we just didn't have enough players at all ages for boys rugby to click through. And that meant we weren't getting players into the senior team either, because they'd go somewhere else to play rugby and then we'd lose them. And we had no girls section after primary school. And Stevie, for example, our director of youth, he put in a power of work over a long period of time to kind of establish those teams. But another big part of what's kind of driven that has been the club employing a development officer to go into local schools. So we've got Jason, he works with Newbattle, which is one of our high schools. We've got another 2 high schools in our catchment area, and I think between 9 and 12 primary schools. So a lot of schools and one main club, lots of opportunity to get kids into rugby. So there's been a lot of work coaching in the school, but also trying to encourage kids to transition from maybe doing it in PE, maybe doing it after school, and then coming down to our club to take part. And it's just seen huge growth. I think we've got boys teams next season, under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 18s, 3 in the girls section, so 14s, 16s and 18s, and our 16s girls are in the National League next season, which is a huge success when you think 2-3 years ago we didn't have a girls youth section. So I think it's a combination of working through the difficult years, when you've got a few players in one age group and then a big kind of have to make some hard decisions about who plays up, who plays down, but I want to play with my friends just to try and sustain teams at all levels until you get those numbers. But the development officer in a school just makes such a difference. And Newbattle particularly have been, the school themselves have just been fantastic to work with us. I think if we had 3 of our development officers, they'd still find time in the curriculum to get rugby in, which is great because we do the exact same. So yeah, it's been brilliant.
Fantastic. Now, tell me a little bit about how the development officer works. I believe, is it the Scottish RFU put some in, you put some in, and the school sort of contributes to it as well? Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. So the model is that we employ the development officer, but as exactly like you said, so the SRU will give you a bit of funding towards that, and that some of that relates to how many player numbers, how many classes, and that kind of thing, which is fair enough. It's scaled, and the school also contribute. And we started out, there's different amounts of funding, but we've grown that funding as we've grown player numbers as well. And it really helps the club continue to offer that. And we've also had additional funding where we've been able to bring in other coaches to help out, because it's obviously a lot of schools, a lot of kids to coach. And actually some of our under 18s who are qualified coaches have also gone into primary schools, for example, and, started doing some of the coaching there. So it's just a balance, and it is a big expense, for the club to invest in a full-time member of staff when you're an amateur rugby club. But I think everyone in the club now sees the value of it. We've been very lucky. Our development officer is really proactive, has done an amazing job, to be honest, and that comes down to the person as well. But it's definitely a worthwhile investment, and it's definitely been a game changer to kind of grow that. And that's allowed us, we talked about growth. It's allowed us to, we've got a men's 1s and 2s every week. We've got an over 35s now. And we've also got, obviously, our women's team as well, which has just grown, a huge amount over the last couple of years as well.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the women's team now as well, because I love the fact that there's women's rugby is absolutely flying at the moment. So again, is there anything that you sort of can put a finger on as to why that growth has occurred? What have you done that's sort of made that possible?
I think, to be totally honest, it comes down to the women themselves. Our women's captain for the last 2 years, Yvonne, and our player coach, Lindsay, they started out, come try rugby. We had four people at training, including those 2. By the end of the season, we had over 30 players. The SRU have an Aspire League, so it allows you to play every second week, to play sort of what they call game on rules, which means if you've not quite got a team, you kind of mix up, everyone gets a game of rugby. Some slight adaptive rules as well. And we've played in that Inspire League for 2 years now. And that's really allowed people who wanted to try rugby, came down, did a bit of training, decided to play, to also have the confidence, get into the sport, enjoy it. But I think what the club's done, it really comes down to the players themselves. I think they've created a really fun environment. I said at our dinner recently, it is honestly amazing to see what looks like 30 odd best friends, like they get on so well. They're always having a laugh. They've become a big part of the club. We had the Lions, Argentina game on the other day. A pile of them came down to watch that. They feel it's their club as well. So I think they've done that themselves, and they've encouraged their friends, players they know from other clubs, to come down, and it's just grown organically. It probably helped in their first year that they kind of topped the league before the playoff, and then got to a national final. So everyone enjoys when you're playing well. And then last season they won the league and the national cup, which was the club's first ever national cup, which, when it's your women's team in their second year, I think is pretty cool. So yeah, but like, we had our 125th season a couple of years ago. We went on tour. Our women's team came as well, and they integrated across. So you had, people from 18 to 60 odd year olds, across the club. We put them into 4 teams. You had our women's team along with guys who are maybe walking rugby in their 50s, along with 18, 19-year-old guys from the ones, all getting on really well, all doing fun games in their little groups. And then they come back, and now they all know each other. So I think that actually was something that kind of happened because Robbie, the guy that organised our tour, was like, how am I getting 60 people into a bar, to be totally honest? And we'll split them into teams. And then his idea was, well, actually, we'll just split like some of the girls' team, some of the men's team. So, and actually, what an amazing idea. And the success of that has been unbelievable. I don't think you would have had those groups mixing perhaps on that scale without it just happening on tour. And obviously a few beers, a few drinking games helped along the way.
Yeah, mate, I think you're being a bit humble there because, like, I definitely know some rugby clubs that if a women's section was started up, they might not feel all that welcome or part of it. So just that example you've given there of that tour story is a really good example of how to integrate new people within a club for whatever sort of subsection they're within. So I think clearly your club's doing a lot of very good things there to find that success.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think it's just people are open to change. I mean, you've had a few people who are a bit unsure, but I think mostly everyone's just been delighted to see, the women become part of the club. And I think definitely feels that way, at the moment. I think a few of the guys last season were a little bit envious of the women who just won a cup and league double and we just stayed up. But as I kind of said, well, maybe we need to win more games then. It comes down to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. Without betraying any tour confidences, obviously, I would like to know a little bit more about your tour. Where did you go? How many games did you play? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we went to Lloret de Mar in Spain. We kind of got it was a bit of a difficult one. The year before we tried to organise a tour, it hadn't happened for various reasons. We then priced up our tour, did a tour meeting. Our tour coordinator Robbie organised that along with myself and our head coach. And then we went to book all our flights, and EasyJet's flights just went through the roof. So we then realised we're going to have to probably fundraise for the entire hotel and both airport transfers as well. So that actually probably made it even better tour because we did a lot of fundraisers leading up to it that we maybe wouldn't have had to do otherwise. It got a lot of people involved throughout the season, even things like barbecues when you're playing Summer Touch through to like functions throughout the year. But yeah, we went to Lloret de Mar for a long weekend. We didn't play a game in the end, which was probably the only kind of downside. But instead we did a lot of like beach rugby, again, mixed teams, beach rounders, all that kind of thing. And yeah, there was 62 of us, I think, in the end that went along. So fantastic tour. No real casualties, which is the main thing. But yeah, it was fantastic. It was really good.
Okay, brilliant. And the thing you touched on there about doing all the fundraisers that led up to it is another brilliant thing that people can learn from. Tell me a bit more about some of those things, because again, it builds momentum towards tour, it builds club togetherness, it breaks down barriers, it does all those things. So you mentioned barbecue. Were there any other things that you did?
Yeah, I mean, it was the fact we did things all the way through the season. So, like in Scotland, there's the Tartan Touch initiative, which is gets people into rugby, but it's all ages. You can play touch and sort of abbreviated rules. So we had a barbecue, so burgers on sale, juice and things on sale. Clearly saying we're fundraising for our tour almost in a year's time. And from there, we had a number of functions. So we started. I think it was our first ever Ladies' Day. And that was just, we couldn't believe how many people came, and a few from our women's team, but a huge amount from just the local community, from parents, and also from people's wives and things as well. Amazing night, raised loads of money, and we ended up doing another one later in the season for that as well. We did a former players day, so got a lot of the guys who used to play down to the club before a home game, bit of a buffet, few beers. We also put on a slideshow of some okay photos to share, some maybe not so much, from over the years, from tours, from fancy dress and things. And they loved it. A big group of them then stayed. They had a really good night. And then we do things like we did a New Year's Day party, for example, where we had about 150 people. So a lot of this just contributed to, topping up the funds throughout the year for the tour. And as you say, it actually probably maybe wasn't our goal with it, but it just meant that people were constantly thinking about tour, constantly involved, constantly down the club and supporting things as well. So yeah, it kind of made it a full year thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think if you put stuff in front of people, like an enticing offer, whether it's a day of fun or a bit of this or a bit of work to achieve that, I think most people will be quite surprised about how many people will put their hands up for that and just get involved.
Definitely, yeah, and it's made us realise that there's actually more of an appetite for these type of things as well. So we did a lot of that again last year, and we'll do that again this year. Some fun functions, get people down. Yeah, just it's one of the things we want to do more of, is get people down to the club. I think rugby clubs have changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years in all kinds of ways, but I think for example, and we talk a lot about this in like the East Regional groups, you don't have guys staying on a Saturday every Saturday night and having beers. So how do you encourage them to come down? What makes them feel like it is somewhere they want to spend their free time? And I don't think we've got the perfect answer, but even things, the Lions test coming up are a great example. We're going to be putting on a buffet breakfast, we might do some touch rugby after it. Just think of different things that will get people to come down rather than stay in the house and watch the rugby or not go out on a Saturday night. And there's a bit of trial and error with that. But yeah, it's also getting members involved. I mean, one of our former committee members, he runs a sort of every second 2 months, a pub quiz on a Friday night. Really good idea, because also if you're playing rugby on the Saturday, you can still come down and have a juice. And he does that during the season. So it's just thinking of ideas to get folk, down to the clubs more regularly, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, tell me a bit more about your anniversary, Jamie. What was the number? What was it? How big an anniversary was it? And was there any other sort of things that you did for that year?
Yeah, so we were founded in 1898. So 1898 to 99 was our first season, as a rugby club. So we're 125 years old last season. We obviously did our tour, which we mentioned. We also did a few things during the year. So we had a centenary or 125-year gin, which we got distilled, there was 125 bottles. They were numbered, with the club crest and everything, and a little, how would I call it, like a very short history of the club as well on there. So that went really well. They were really popular. We raffled off one of the bottles as well, bottle 125, which one of the members kindly donated back to the club to put on display alongside the bottle of whiskey we did for 100th year, which is really cool. So they're both, still in the clubhouse. We did some commemorative ties and stuff as well. And then we had our club dinner in May, which was fantastic. It was a complete sellout. We had a bit of a headache fitting everyone in, to be honest. We were absolutely packed to the rafters. And we had John Rutherford speak at that. So obviously Scotland legend, British Lion, and involved heavily in his local club in Selkirk. So he was fantastic, really great speaker. And it was a fantastic night and early morning celebrating that as well.
It sounds amazing. I've been lucky enough to meet John Rutherford myself, and I think the sort of words or phrase "humble legend" is very, very apt for that man. You'd never know what he's achieved just by his sort of being.
100%, and he's so laid back about it as well. I mean, growing up, I'm just about old enough to remember him playing, and he was my dad's favourite player as well. And I said this to him while he sat next to me having his dinner, and I think he was like, "Please don't say that to me. I don't know what to say back to you." And I'm like, "You're a legend of the game." It was very cool. Yeah, and he told some really great stories from maybe a bygone era of rugby now, but it was a really nice celebration. And I think with that, we had people from across the club again. The men's team, the women's team, both of them had their awards and stuff as well, which we do in the same night. But what a way to celebrate, 125 years. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, mate. Looking forward. What's next? What's in the plans? What's the next things you're trying to get towards, things that you've earmarked for achievement?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is sustainability, to be totally honest. We've grown like really fast. And I think, we've got over 600 members now. We've got teams at a lot of ages that we were part of our goal of growth, and sustainability in terms of funding, sustainability in terms of facilities. A lot of clubs, it's not what you think about when you're trying to grow your numbers, but if you've only got 2 changing rooms and you've got 6 youth teams playing on a Saturday morning, you got to figure that out. I mean, we work with the schools and other groups for that, but the sustainability of our growing numbers is something we're working on as well. But also we've got certain goals for different parts of the club. So like the men's team, we're now in East Division 1. We're pushing next season to maybe a top half finish, and our ambition is to become a National League rugby club, which is the league above where we're in just now. There's a lot that goes to that. You've got to be financially sustainable as well as having the players willing to travel. But that's part of our vision. But I think we always say we're a community club. We're ambitious, but we are a community club, and we want to offer rugby for all. And I think we're now doing that. We say 2 to 82 between our little ruggers on a Sunday morning, all the way up to our walking rugby. It's just how we sustain that now, because I think over the last couple of years it's grown to almost bursting point, and we're like, right, how do we sustain this now as well?
It's a really good point because like growth is fantastic, obviously, but if you can't fill in the gaps, if people are getting not what they're expecting as you grow and
Yeah,
suddenly people start falling away, the foundations can disappear. So very good point. But what I want to hear about now is the walking rugby, because that's another sector of the game which is growing exponentially. I don't think I'd really heard of it like maybe 5 years ago, but now I've heard of many, many clubs that have open walking rugby sections. So how does it work at Dalkeith, and how many members have you got in that kind of?
yeah, it's something that I hadn't heard of until some of the older members said they were setting up a walking rugby team. I think, to be honest, they just started by turning up on a Friday afternoon, chucking a ball about. They obviously worked through the rules and kind of went, "This is a good laugh." Um, they're part of our club, but they're Midlothian wide, so they work with the other clubs as well to get people down to our club on a Friday to play. I think they might have been going about 5 years as well. But yeah, they encourage people to come down, all levels and ability, come down, throw a ball around, have a laugh on a Friday afternoon. But they played, I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the first ever cross country games ever. So they went down to England and played a team down there about 3 years ago. And they went actually to Strasbourg and played in a walking rugby tournament about a month or so ago as well. So they get around, like they organise that themselves a lot of the time. And to be honest, we just say, what can we do? And they're like, get in on a Friday, let us open the bar at 4 o'clock when we finish so we can have a pint. Perfect, crack on, guys. And they've grown it, but they also do a lot for charity and stuff as well. They've done like sponsored walks and stuff as well. So they're their own kind of entity. A lot of life members in there, former presidents of the club as well. So yeah, but it's fantastic actually, and it allows us to offer another element of rugby from the club. Friday's probably the only day we don't have teams training in the evening or playing during the day. So, another great time for the club to be used 7 days a week to offer rugby. So, yeah, it's been
Yeah,
pretty cool.
wonderful. And it sounds, I mean, it seems to me for the people that I've talked to that do walking rugby, the walking rugby is just the vessel, really, for some gentle movement, a bit of social, a bit of camaraderie, and a bit of, banter amongst friends. Really, is that seem to be the case for you guys as well?
Yeah, 100%. Like these guys, a lot of them, like some of them coached me when I was in my youth. Some of their kids I played with or still do. A lot of them have been members of the club for, 40, 50 years. It's a great, it keeps them active as well, but it's great social as well. They have their wine and cheese nights, port and cheese nights and stuff as well. But it's
I mean,
great. It gets them down to the club. So was I. I was along at one the other day. But yeah, it just means like they stay involved in the club, which is pretty cool too. Yeah.
yeah, amazing. Okay, mate, we'll bring this part of the show to a close now. We'll move on to the stash section. So this is favourite kits. What is your favourite kit of all time? So it's going to be any team, any era, anyone you like.
That's a hard one, but I'm probably going to tie it between the Scotland home strip from 1999 when we won, the last Five Nations. Pretty cool with the purple down the arm. But given it's British Lions season, probably the British Lions Adidas top from 2001 is pretty cool as well.
NTL was a sponsor, wasn't it? I think, if I'm
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. I did like that one myself. Okay, what about awful kits? Any kits you kind of dislike at the moment you'd rather burn than wear?
I think any of the kits that have got too many sponsors on, I think you see them in Super Rugby, looks a bit like a cycling jersey. That's not for me. I kind of like the classic clean strips. So yeah.
Yeah, Italian and French kits. They've got a
Yeah,
lot of that kind
exactly.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what about favorite stash received? So this could be something that you've earned throughout your playing days, or it could have been gifted to you, something like that.
Um, I mean, I've still got the strip that I wore at 16 on my first team debut, which is pretty cool. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, it's a big, heavy cotton rugby strip, which I still don't fit into. Uh, but they were pretty square. There was none of this pro fit. But yeah, I've still got that, and I think like in terms of like what it means, it's pretty cool still having that long after as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very cool answer. I love it. Okay, mate, as we bring this to a close, is there anything else you kind of want to say, any kind of message or anything about Dalkeith or otherwise? The floor is
Yeah,
yours.
I think it was just to say, like, if there is anyone in the area who's interested in getting into rugby, we've just talked a lot about all the different ages that we offer rugby, but we try to offer rugby for all abilities as well. So really keen for people to come down and give rugby a try. We've done a lot over the summer, particularly for youth rugby, for people just to come down, pick up a ball, get involved in it, and be part of what is a pretty cool club to be part of.
Yeah, and I'm sure if people just want to come down and volunteer to help out, you would accept
That'd
that
be
as well.
awesome. That would be awesome. Definitely. We're always looking for more volunteers. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so somebody listening to this and they think, yes, that sounds like a bit of me. I want to go and play for Jamie's club. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we've got our website, dalkeithrugbyclub.com, nice and easy. But we've also got our Facebook page, which we share a lot of content on there these days. So they can find out all the information there, find out training nights, contacts, all that kind of thing. So it's pretty open. You can just drop us a message. We'd love to hear from anyone, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, people listening, go and lurk around on that Facebook page, get an idea of what it's all about, and then get in contact and get down there and play some rugby. Nice. Listeners, everything that we've mentioned today will be linked down in the show notes below and at amateurrugbypodcast.com. So, Jamie, amazing today. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and congratulations on everything you and everybody else at Dalkeith has achieved. It's a real success story, so well done.
Thanks so much. And it's been great to come on and brag a little bit about it, maybe, and take credit for other people's success. But no, it's been great to chat about as well. And we're really proud of where the club's got to. And hopefully excited for the future. Another 125 years well past my days.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, mate, thank you so much.
Cheers, thanks.
Alrighty, there he goes. I mean, it's the enthusiasm, isn't it? That goes a long way to creating a good club culture which encourages volunteers and makes people want to be involved and stay involved. And I think that's a big part of it as well. Jamie, thanks so much, and congratulations genuinely to everybody at Dalkeith for what you've achieved and it will continue to achieve. I have no doubt. Okay, also going on at the moment right now is the Lions series, and I'm producing a ton of content over on the YouTube channel with all kinds of like video analysis and stuff like that. Really interesting things, I think. So go over there, have a look at that and subscribe if you enjoy it. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, then you can do all the social media stuff, like, share, write a review as well. I haven't had one of those in a while, but what I'd really like is if you mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. But until then, get out and play.